And through those 20 years that I served with my colleagues here, I had the privilege of serving with members who maintained with Martin Luther King Jr. that right is right if nobody does it.
That's right.
And wrong is wrong if everybody does it. They were men and women who were black and white, and Democrats and Republicans in the House and in the Senate. But all of them decided they were not just going to talk about their convictions, but they walked the walk in championing legislation like H.R. 4650 that required us to do the right thing. Congressman Al Wynn is such a member, and this bill is such a bill. And Chris Van Hollen, and Sheila Jackson Lee, and Danny Davis, and Arthur Griffith, who joined these men today, are members who say with us for the whistleblowers of our country, right is right and wrong is wrong. And we're going to hear from 9 members of the Coalition of Conscience that we now call the No Fear Coalition. We're going to say a word of support for what these courageous and determined members of Congress are initiating here today. But in the question and answer period, I hope that those in the press will question 2 gentlemen whose experience with unjust and wrong action sends a message to us today. They are Matthew Fogg, who after a struggle of no less than 20 years has reached a settlement of $1.7 million that unjust supervisors took from him. The other man is one who should be encouraged by this development today because he is Lawrence Lucas, the leader of Black Farmers of America, who I predict, as a result of this bill, will be singing someday with Matthew Fogg a song that Sheila and I sing at the church in Houston. It says, "I'm reaping the promise God made to me. Take back what the devil stole from me." And the message that your leadership is sending to whistleblowers all over this nation is simply this: be not weary in well-doing. For in due season, may take 20 years, but in due season, we'll reap if we faint not. For right is right if nobody does it. And wrong is wrong if everybody does it. And the right must win. Don't give up, don't give out, don't give in until we, with H.R. 4650, move this nation to the high grounds of principles that we enunciate, but so often fail to live with respect to our employees in the federal government in particular, and with respect to the kind of courageous whistleblowers like Marcia Alvayo, who is chair of our No Fear Coalition. Thank you so much, Mr. I would almost hug you, but I still want to take your hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, just that much. Chris, delighted to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Well, it's great to be here with you today. Let me start by thanking Albert Wynn for his leadership in putting a very important issue. I'm proud to gather with my colleagues, Sheila Jackson Lee, and the others have been mentioned as we move forward on this. But thank you, Elwin, for leading the effort here. And to former Congressman Walter Fauntroy, thank you as well, not just for this effort, but for all your leadership in the civil rights movement in this country. And as we all know, yesterday we just celebrated the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. And clearly what we're dealing with here is part of a civil rights effort in terms of making sure that people are treated fairly and justly. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke out for the truth. And I think what we are clearly saying here is that you shouldn't be punished for telling the truth. That is the essence of this. Now, we have had whistleblower protection legislation in the past, but as we all know, the ability to actually have your rights protected are only as good as your ability to enforce those rights. It's one thing to have those rights written on a piece of paper. It's another thing to be able to take action on that. And that's what this legislation is all about. I want to thank those who have been brave enough to stand up and tell the truth under very difficult circumstances and in the face of potential retaliation and punishment. Dr. Marsha Coleman Adebayo has been a leader and champion in standing up for this, and so many others have as well. And this is just an effort that we need to take together to make sure that those who stand up and speak the truth are not punished, but rather acknowledged for the contributions they're making to making sure that our government really serves the people and the public and is not used or abused by some people against the public interest. And so, again, thank you, Congressman Wynn. Thank you, former Congressman Walter Fauntroy, and all the others who have gathered here, because I do think this is an effort for us to say, as Walter Fauntroy just told us, that when something's right, we need to pursue it vigorously. And this is an effort by all of us to make sure that those people who are speaking out and speaking the truth get the protection that they deserve. Thank you.
I just noticed, I mentioned a fellow by the name of Matthew Favre that I want you all to question after we finish our presentations here. There he is right there. Hey, big buddy. Here. Have a seat there.
All right.
Matthew, God bless you.
Well, as a member of Congress, a lot of times you get a lot of credit for pieces of legislation, but I want to be very clear. The person who literally carried this legislation on her back is Dr. Marsha Coleman Adebayo. She was tired. She deserved it. In her pursuit, she was persistent, and she did not soften. Sometimes pieces of legislation can be compromised into squishiness. She refused to do that, and I admire that. It took a while for us to work this out, but it's worked out, and it is a good piece of legislation, a tough piece of legislation. It is a credit to her determination and that of her colleagues in the coalition that we are here today. So I want to give full credit where credit is due, and with that, I'd like to recognize Dr. Marsha.
Well, first of all, let me thank God for this day. And we thank God for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we have decided is the patron saint of whistleblowers. We're grateful that he had the courage to blow the whistle on injustice, corruption, racism, sexism, and wickedness in high places. I would just like to also, Congressman, just for 1 second, just please acknowledge, could all the members of the No Fear Coalition please stand up? I just would like for everyone just to give them a big round of applause. Yeah. We claim everyone who stood up and didn't stand up. If you didn't stand up, you will be a part of the No Fear Coalition pretty soon, so the next press conference. On behalf of the No Fear Coalition, we thank Congressman Al Wynn for introducing the Congressional Disclosures Protection Act, the second Civil Rights Act that will be passed in the 21st century. The No Fear Coalition, this is a part of a package, as Congressman Wynn knows, of No Fear legislation. There's No Fear 1 that was passed, that was signed into law May 15, 2002, Congressional Disclosures Protection Act, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee will be introducing No Fear 2 and the U.S. Civil Rights Tax Relief Act. So we are a very busy coalition.